Rasmus Henning is a two-time top 10 Olympic triathlete, multiple World Cup and Ironman winner, and one of Denmark's most successful triathletes of all time. Back in 2010, he joined an elite club of male athletes to complete a sub-8-hour Ironman and posted one of the fastest ever times at Challenge Roth. He's a full-time Kona vet. He could most recently be seen rolling back the years and tearing up the course at the WTCS Hamburg Age Group Sprint World Championships, winning silver in the 45 to 49 category. He's also the CEO and Performance Director of Triathlon Denmark after recently working with the Danish Olympic Committee. So after all that, Rasmus, welcome to the podcast. How are you and where are you?
Thanks a lot, Doug. I'm in Sweden. Actually, we're having a couple of weeks of vacation with the family. We have a summer house here in the southern part of Sweden that we've had since I was a baby, pretty much. So we've obviously been here a lot. I've just been away now from here for almost a week with my wife Anita and our two youngest kids, William and Esther, a bit further up in Sweden. Out along the east coast, went through Kalmar actually, which is quite a well-known triathlon spot, and a bit further north from there. Had some great days. Stayed on a houseboat for a few nights, and there was a little a speedboat there. We could go around the archipelago there, and so we had a great time. And now we're back in the house here for a few more days. So times are good.
Lovely. Yeah. Is it this time of year the streets are full of cyclists and people running that perhaps, during the winter months, it obviously is rather harder up there, is it, to sort of get out? And how has your training been going in the lead up to Hamburg? Is it something that you've just maintained ever since retirement? And obviously that you've done sort of races here and there as well. But was there very much like a need for ramping it up going into Hamburg, as much for your own personal kind of competitive edge as anything, I suppose?
Yeah, well, it's been now 11 years or so since I retired from pro racing, and all the time I have been doing some swimming, running, and cycling, and I've always returned to that. I've been doing different other things. I did some OCR racing for a couple of years, nothing at a professional level, but with a group of friends. And I've been doing a bit of masters swimming as well, also a few competitions, and doing other bits and pieces, but always return to triathlon. I haven't been training much the last at least 7 or 8 years. But I have been doing it a bit all the time, so it's never been that far away from me. And then since I returned to the federation almost a year ago, it just makes sense for me to get more involved, also personally again, not just from a working perspective, but also actually doing it. I was lucky enough to do a couple of training camps this winter with the national team, where we also invited age groupers to come along, so I could do some training with the age groupers, some with the elite, and be sort of the team leader, everything. And it makes sense. I love that role, and I love doing a bit more training. And then I have to go to a number of races in Denmark and some abroad as well over the summer. And why not participate myself when I'm there anyway? So that's sort of been my key here. It is a little bit tricky sometimes. It was tricky in Hamburg as well, dividing that role, also being there for the elites and the juniors that we had racing, and then also suddenly shifting my mindset into racing myself and then back again. But it works out, and I think it's worthwhile, because I think as ex-pros, we're still important ambassadors for the sport, and my feeling is that the elites actually appreciate the fact that I have been really good in the past, but that I'm still also doing it, that I haven't grown old and fat, but I'm still reasonably fit and still enjoying training and can do that with them. And I'm pretty sure that as a role model for other Danish and international age groupers, I hope that they appreciate the fact that I'm still doing it, and I'm still really just enjoying it, loving the training, and enjoying participating in races as well.
When you made the decision to retire, was it family reasons? Obviously, you'd had a very long and successful career as well. Did you want to go cold turkey straight after the decision and just sort of step right away?
Well, it was definitely the right time for me to retire as a pro, because I didn't have the hunger, the urge to develop, to improve, or to even be out there at the sharp situations where there was a lot at stake. I didn't enjoy it anymore, and first and foremost, I didn't enjoy being away from my family. I had our two oldest daughters, who are now 16 and 18. They were young kids at sort of the last bit of my professional career, and it was hard for me to be away from them. And I didn't think it was worth it. I still enjoyed training, as I was saying before then, and I continued doing that a bit. But I must say, I think probably the most unfit I was at any point was 3 or 4 months after retiring as a pro. That's where when I hit the rock bottom, because I just said to myself, from the day I retired, I only want to do training that I want to do. And in the beginning, I really didn't want to do a lot. But then, over the winter, it got pretty bad. But then came spring and summer, and I started enjoying it again. So I started just going out, doing some training sessions with some friends, and I wanted it to be, training for the fun of it all the time. So as soon as I wasn't having a good time out there, I would go home and just skip that training. Or if I didn't want to go out, even if I had it planned, I didn't go out. But then after a while it stabilized, and then since then I've been staying relatively fit. I've probably been doing an average of, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a week or something of training throughout the years, and at the moment it's about that level as well. I might have a few weeks with above 10 hours now, especially over the summer if I get a couple of rides in during a week, but nothing special, nothing structured.
Did you care that when you, that first winter where you said you felt sort of more unfit than you ever had, were you like, oh God, I don't actually like this feeling very much, and start, or was it actually, oh, this is quite nice, and able to kind of ease off and please yourself?
I like the feeling of not having to go out and train, but I dislike the feeling of not being fit. I gained a few kilos. I could see it. I remember, looking at myself in the mirror. I could virtually see it on my face and my neck, sort of thing. But there was a little extra to it, and I just didn't like that. So obviously that added a little bit to the desire to stay fit. But yeah, like I said, I think it was just a reaction to retiring, and then everything stabilized after that.
Yeah, and what you said about not really enjoying or having that same hunger at the end of those races to make that difference, that is what you need, you desperately need in those situations. Was that a gradual thing, or was there one race where you perhaps were in that situation and just found yourself easing off and thought, oh wow, this is different, this isn't the usual me, or the younger me?
Well, I think in retrospect that the last couple of seasons that I did, it became a little bit too much, say, other people deciding what I should do, if that makes sense. That for sponsor reasons, for media reasons, I needed to do certain races where I would have rather liked to do other races. For instance, doing Challenge Roth in 2010, which was my third last season, was obviously a highlight because I won it, but also because I just had a fabulous day, and I loved it there. And I would have loved to do that, all that type of races where I just felt, welcome and just really enjoying the whole thing about it. I think, and I mean, it's hard to say, but I Kona Ironman never really suited me. I didn't like it much there. I didn't like the course. I didn't enjoy being there. Also because, like I said before, the family thing was a big issue for me in those last years of my career, and being away for that long, which it required to do well in Kona, just wasn't my thing. So I was uncomfortable. I was sad already the week leading up to the race because I'd already been away so long, and then come race day, I just didn't have it in me mentally more than anything. probably could have, physically done well if everything went into place. But so for me, it would have been nice now, where with the World Championships in Nice, definitely would have been an advantage for me, because just the distance and the time difference to Hawaii was a big obstacle for me, I think. So yeah, I think towards the end of my career, it was a bit too much that, and looking back, I wish that maybe 1 or 2 years before, if I had decided, well, Hawaii is not my thing, I'd rather try and structure my season around doing something else, doing other races that I can put my heart into. That would have been maybe a factor that could have prolonged my career. And then I remember one point during my last season, the 2012 season, when I realized the sort of the lack of importance that further triathlon success had to me, was I won the big race that was in Abu Dhabi in March. There was this long distance race at a kind of an odd distance, where I think we swam 3K, then we biked 200 and finished off with a 20K run. And I won that race, biked really well, close to the front, and then I outran everybody for the win. And finishing there and standing there afterwards, I could just feel that, I mean, this should be a highlight, and it was a great race, but it didn't mean that much to me. I would rather just head on home. And that was sort of made it clear to me that was probably going to be my last season. And over the summer there, I mentally went on retirement. So doing my final Kona in October was just, because I had to do it. I didn't want to do it too much.
Right. And again, I'm sure there was a part of you that wanted to do it and as like that final test, but there was a lot of sponsor pressure, was there, to take that start line as much as anything else? Or
yeah, I had some contracts that required me going there, and so there wasn't really anything getting around it. Although I'm sure that they would have rather had me being honest about that, and maybe we changed something in the contract that I could go and do things that I put my heart into. And I think that's one of the key learnings, and maybe something to pass on to other athletes, younger athletes, that make sure to go where you want to go, and not let yourself be pushed into doing things that don't feel right, because it's never going to be as successful in the long run.
I guess seeing Mario Mola win the duathlon world title in Ibiza is a perfect case in point, right? He's been sort of having a hard time trying to get back on the series, sort of, in those races, and then you go and do that, and you could just see the joy in racing kind of pouring back into him and out of him.
Yeah, exactly, and also being on home turf in Spain, and it really makes sense. And I think. Also, actually, what I did the first couple of seasons after professional retirement was I still kept on training a bit, and just because I had so many years of training in the bank, I could still perform reasonably well. But I didn't really want to go out and do any big international races. But I did some races in Denmark, and I actually returned to doing some short distance draft legal races, which I hadn't done since the 2008 Olympics, pretty much. And I didn't make any money off it. It wasn't because I had to. I just felt it was fun to do it, and it was actually a good chance for me to build the bridge to the next generation of young athletes. And it was quite fun. I talked to Daniel Beckegaard about it a while ago. Daniel, who's now one of the best long distance athletes we have in Denmark and in the world, I guess. And he remembered one of those races just when he had started his career and I had finished mine, and we were at one of these races, and I'm not sure. I think he was a little bit disappointed with his race, and I came over and I talked to him a little bit about it, and that was actually one of the things that sort of lit his fire to pursue a triathlon career, and I think maybe looking back, that factor has been a big motivator for me, and certainly it has been afterwards. if I can make a difference to other people, other athletes, by inspiring them or helping them, motivating them to go out and make an effort and try and make something for themselves, then I think that makes more sense to me than actually the personal success. And that's also something that it's nice to know, and something that also adds to the fact that I think it's fun to race and keep on staying fit now, because it means something for me and to other people. We're talking about now again working towards having bigger international events in Denmark. I don't think we're going to run for multisports world championships just yet, but maybe some short distance European Cup, maybe towards the World Cup in a few years' time, if we can get the organization right. I've been, really cautious about, making sure that if we're going to do that, we need to make sure that we can make it sustainable, both in terms of finances and human resources, because what I saw and what I've heard now since I came back leading the federation is that doing the event in Fyn in 2018 was just too draining for too many people, and I don't want to do that again. So we have to make it more sustainable if we're going to do anything like that again.
Yeah, a fine line is there between the ambition and reality of what you want to be doing to extend the sport at home, create those stages for it, and what is actually feasible.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all have a big drive, and we want to make the sport of triathlon great in the country and abroad, and make it on everybody's minds and lips. But you also have to be realistic about triathlon. It's difficult to organize. There's so much involved and so much out in the open space, out in the city, and it costs a lot of money, and not everybody is necessarily playing in your direction the whole time. There are going to be authorities and different people working in other directions, having other focuses than yours, and that makes it really hard. So you have to find that fine balance.
And a lot of things maybe to come together at the same time. If someone like Alberta Kiar, who is showing all the signs of being someone who can potentially dominate the sport in a few years' time, and certainly has that kind of X factor, if you can combine it with her kind of on the ascension and pulling in some great results, like how do you see her over the coming years? And I guess LA 28 is something that she's probably very much aiming towards. Yeah,
it's clear that Alberta is our biggest role model now in short distance, our biggest Olympic hope. And she has grown up in the city of Fredericia, which is one of Denmark's famous triathlon cities. It's quite a small town. I think there's about maybe 50,000 people living there, but they've bred and a lot of good athletes and hosted a lot of big events there over the years, and that's where we're trying to grow now a short distance race. We have the Nordic championships there this September, and also next year, and then we hope to grow it from there. And also, obviously, the city is very interested in making use of the fact that they have a local hero now in Alberta there. So as long as she's there and she's racing short distance, then there's scope for growing that race.
And just thinking about Hamburg and your race there, and how, I guess, important it was for you to be, you were the sole Danish athlete on the podium in the age group races. In the age group landscape that is perhaps, I don't know for how long, been somewhat dominated by the Americas or the Aussies or the Brits, then to pin your flag on there and to stand up and represent Denmark must have been, it's important in a wider context as well as your own sort of pride at being there, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it's important that all countries have representation at the age group championships all over the world, and Denmark has always had a few handfuls of people racing. Obviously, when it was in Denmark, it was many more. But my thought was, if now that it was in Hamburg, it's pretty close to Denmark. I was going to be there anyway with the elites and the juniors. Then I thought, well, I'll give it a go. I'm not sure I would race like last year was in Montreal. I wouldn't have raced there unless I had to go anyway. And I'm not sure that I will be racing every time I'm going, and and it fits the schedule. But it was great to have the opportunity, and I think also. Because I'm physically the person who is entering all the other age group athletes for Denmark to the championships. So just taking that lead role as well and saying, okay, I actually go and race.
Well, I'll just add my name to the list.
Yeah, exactly, and hopefully that can inspire other Danes to go out and do those championships.
Yeah. And it was a logical one geographically and historically for you, I guess. You got, you very good memories. You were there at the very first one in 2002, won it 2004. Standing on that start line, memories flooding back. Did it look very different to those first ones? How, the atmosphere, was it as busy there back in the early days? Yeah,
it was actually very similar to what it was back then. I think I probably raced there 5 times. I mean, you probably know that better than I do with the stats. but I just remember doing the swim was pretty much the same, except now we started in the water and the elite start from the pontoon there. And but apart from that, we still swam under that tunnel under the bridge. And I remember that from back then, and the atmosphere around Hamburg, the venue, the expo, and all of that. It might have grown slightly bigger, but it was similar. And I specifically remember the World Championships there we did in 2007 when Daniel Unger won it. It was even more crazy with the crowds and yeah, so it was great. One of the reasons, another reason that I ended up racing this year was actually talking to Daniel in wintertime. We were in Playitas, a resort in Fuerteventura in the Canary Islands for training camps. I was there with the Danish team. He was there with his German team, and we sat and had a long chat down memory lane one of the evenings over a couple of beers, and we talked about, maybe we should race. We were in the same age group, so I got back to him earlier in spring and asking, should we really go and do it? And we ended up saying, yeah, well, let's try and do it. Yeah, and I mean, I really love the fact that he went and did it without being, as focused, as fit as I am at this time. And I think, I mean, all the respect for doing that, because I'm not sure that I would be as comfortable racing if I wasn't fit, if I didn't feel that I was one of the guys who could fight for the medals. Mm-hmm. I think that would be more difficult to me. But I mean, kudos to Daniel for doing that. And as he said, when he was being interviewed right before our start, and they asked him how he think he could do, and he said, "Oh, there are probably 100 guys in my age group that would beat me." And I'm not sure what he ended up, but he wasn't up in the front. There probably wasn't 100 guys in front of him, but he was somewhere there in the middle. But
he
still
was 15th. He was 15th.
He was 15th. Yeah. So it was definitely closer to the front, but still, it was great, and I think it's good to see some of the former profiles being out there racing just for the fun of it, just because we love the sport.
Yeah, I can imagine a get together and a decide to race over a few beers and sort of rehashing some of the old days. I mean, it was a course where you raced, the likes of Brad Karlefelt and Chris Gemmell and so on, and had some good duels. Were those memories sort of coming back? Was the competitive instinct there as there are a few people kind of double taking as they looked at you? And yeah, well, for starters, I'm not sure how many people actually knew then who I was. I don't think
that Matt Barnes, who actually beat me, who had a great race and outran me by 40 seconds for the 5K, and had a very deserved win. I don't think he knew who I was until we talked afterwards, and a lot of them probably didn't. They must have started doing triathlon later than or since I retired. But I mean, for my own sake, I can say I was pretty relaxed about it before. Also, we had a few heats for the elites in the morning, and there was only like an hour before my start that I said, okay, now I'm going to leave all that and focus on myself and get ready and do a little bit of warm up and try to get in the zone as much as I could. But as soon as the gun went off, I mean, that could have been 15 years ago. I just wanted to get to that first buoy, the first person, and I did.
Yeah.
And it felt so great when I was swimming out there after the first 100, 200 meters. I looked to the right, there was nobody there. Looked to the left, there was nobody there. I said, I'm going to make it to the first buoy, and so that was amazing. That was worth all of it.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Yeah, so what about this discussion out there in the world of triathlon about pros coming back and racing the age groupers, some sort of disgruntled age groupers who perhaps feel that they shouldn't necessarily be there, or that maybe there's a masters race that could perhaps take their place. But I mean, the point is that it's the nice thing of being able to race on the same course as the elites, and surely that at the same time, you should feel grateful that you can rub shoulders with people that have been at the very top of the sport. I would imagine that would be an honor.
I think a lot of people feel it that way and see it as a nice addition to the race that are actually former pros that are racing. And I don't think I've heard other age groupers saying that, it's not fair that we should take part in that. But I think maybe if I'd come out and raced age group the year after doing professional and winning at a professional level, maybe that wouldn't be entirely fair. But I think the world championships for the 45 to 49 should be won by the best athletes in that age group, no matter what past they have. And I mean, as I see it, the people that are really competitive in their age groups, they are either people that have been really good at the sport and done a lot of training previously, and now just hold on and do some training just to keep it up. And then there are the other group that might not have been, at least not in triathlon, professional or elite athletes, but they are now training a whole lot. And we see a lot of them in Denmark, and I have a lot of respect for them. They train 20 or 25 hours a week, and then put their lives into it. And of course, they can do really well. Also, if we went out and did long distance, with on TT bikes, I would be beaten by a lot of those. I could be competitive now because this was more a format that suited what I sort of still have in the tank and what I can do with the amount of training that I do now. But I just think it's a really nice addition to the sport that former pros still want to take part. And I think it also indicates that we have been doing it through our professional careers because we actually love the sport, because we like to swim, bike, and run. And we like the atmosphere around the races. That's why we want to come back and still be part of that whole community. So I think it's only a good thing. And I think if other people think it's unfair, they should go and train some more and try to beat us next time.
Yeah. So Stuart Hayes was racing the category below you as well, and Michelle Dillon, as you mentioned earlier, won again, didn't she? Her age group, I think.
Yeah, she won for the third time. I think.
I mean, you'd hope it would be a selling point in as much as racing the same course as the elites is, right? And the more, I don't know, is it something that has presumably has happened in the past, but maybe not with as much regularity, or maybe not. Perhaps it's like a bit of a post-COVID thing, and this was the first. I mean, Montreal obviously last year, but was quite far away, or from the European perspective. So this is the first kind of mass post-COVID total normality European age group event. So yeah, maybe it is a bit of a taste of things to come, and can be another nice impetus behind the next growth of age group racing.
Yeah, I hope that a lot of our other former colleagues and competitors, feel inspired to come out and do it. Um, Obviously, probably health issues is another thing that might come in the way. I wouldn't have been able to do this every year that has been since I retired, because I've been having problems with my knees and my Achilles, but now for the last few months I have been able to also run pretty stably. It might not be the same next year. I might get into some problems. It has taken its toll on my body for sure, being an elite athlete for that many years, and as it must have for most other athletes. And so I think it's just it's a proof of health also if we come out and race, and I hope more people will do that.
Yeah. Did Alberta Kjaer, was she a little disappointed presumably not to make that final 10 as she had done in Montreal, hadn't she? That Montreal race, was it just the one after her Huatulco win, or was the Huatulco win the year before that had sort of, very much established her on the elite scene and shown exactly what she's capable of?
Yeah. So Alberta, she did have a couple of World Cup wins, and then the fourth place in Montreal last year, and she was certainly hoping for being in the final 10. There was something going on in transition. I think the bikes had been moved or something, so she made a small mistake in T1. So she sort of lost the group going out on the bike, and then it was hard to catch up, it was impossible to catch up on the bike, and not even a strong run could put her back in contention. So so she will hope to do better next time.
Yeah, a format that certainly highlights those finer details, isn't it? Is it
you can't make any mistakes in transitions or in any of the details if you want to do well in that format. I really enjoy that format. I would have loved to race that myself back in the days. I don't know if it would have been to my advantage. I was probably a little bit more of a diesel engine than a pure sprinter, but I think the endurance side of it, having to do it repeatedly, would have come into play for me. And I definitely enjoy it now as just a triathlon fan, and just being there, watching it on site or watching it on TV. It makes for great racing.
Are there any of those little moments, those little details, maybe something out of a race that either on reflection, you feel you could have gone a bit harder there, or there was just someone got in your head, or?
Well, that's actually a bit of a fun story to my win in Hamburg, which was in 2004. So it was only, I think, 10 days or so after the Olympics, and I was 7th in Athens. So it was a disappointment in terms of medaling, and I won the test event the year before, and I knew I was supposed to be good at that course, and but then I ended up just having another 6 guys that were better than me on the day. So it was a bit of a disappointment, but still it was not terrible. Being 7th at the Olympics is by no means terrible. So I got into the Hamburg event a week and a half later, just saying, I just wanted to revenge this and show that I can do better than that. So I was really motivated. And then out on the run, I think we were running 10 or 15 guys together. Then actually Brad Carlefeld, I don't know if he remembers, it'd be fun to talk to him about it, but at first he ran sort of and hit my heel out on the run, and the first time I didn't react anything to it, but then he did it again a few seconds later, and I just got so annoyed. I didn't lose my shoe, but I got so annoyed, and I just turned around and I yelled something not so pretty to him, and that just gave me that adrenaline kick. So then I went back, focused on the road ahead, and without even deliberately trying to put in a surge, I just opened up 10-15 meters on the group. And a little later, I looked back and said, "Oh shit, there's a hole!" And I just kept on running. I said, "Oh, I got to try this." And then nobody called back to me, so I ended up winning the race. So thank you, Brad, for that.
Those little, yeah. Well, I guess maybe that says something about your competitive mindset. That the thing when I was looking for something that negative, and you chose one that made you win.
I could probably find a few negative ones
No,
as
no, no.
well, but
Why go negative?
I think
I would.
they've been put somewhere in the garbage along the years.
That's just yeah, sort of interviewer going for a prod and a probe. In terms of those Hy-Vee races, that they were obviously very interesting in the history of the sport, weren't they? The huge prize money on the line there, and the sort of the one-off race within a race. It was, there's an Olympics, there's a world champs, but there's also this Hy-Vee. And was the first prize 200 grand, or was that the total prize pot
No,
for?
the first prize was 200 grand, and then the first year there was the Hummer as well for the winner.
Oh, a
Yeah,
Hummer. As
yeah,
well as $200,000, you get a
that
Hummer.
was, yeah. And the second year there was the 200,000, and then there was a Lexus on the line as well, but and we thought we were going to win that, but then apparently during the race or something they
Split
decided differently. So I think it was one out of the crowds that ended up winning that Lexus. But it was Emma Snozel and I who won in '08 in the second year. And then we talked about it afterwards. Like, should we do something about this? And then we said, we better just take the 200 grand and be happy, and not make a big fuss about it. You could take that luxury in that situation, couldn't you? But of course, Hy-Vee played a big role in my career, and I'm really proud of that. Particularly the first year when we really put it into with a big
planning.
red cross in the race calendar for 2007, already a year before when it was announced. I remember my coach and I we sat down and said, well, that looks like something that could work really well for me, so I went out and executed perfectly during that race. I was always in the front pack after the swim. I was a good swimmer and always got out there, and then races could develop differently. But in that race I was really keen on trying to break away out on the bike, and it was always a matter of finding the right people, and eventually I saw Matt Reed, who was always a really good cyclist, and also a guy that I could more often than not outrun afterwards, and he looked like he was getting a bit of a gap, and I rode up to him, and we had another couple of guys with us. One of them, Simon Whitfield, actually, and we ended up, I think, gaining what could have been 1.5 minutes maybe on the rest of the pack. So we had that gap when we started the run, and after the first few Ks, I dropped everybody, including Simon Whitfield, and then from behind came two of the greats, Bevan Doherty and Javier Gomez, and they were chasing, and they got closer and closer to me, and they got to about 30 seconds with one lap to go, and it was surreal, actually. I at that point I started thinking about that huge price check, because winning $200,000, it was it potentially life changing. It was not the $10,000 or something that is always a great win, but it was so much, and I started getting thoughts in my head. What if somebody jumps on the course now and tackles me, or whatever could happen here? What could go wrong? Could I hold on to this? But I just ran for dear life, and luckily nobody got in the way, and I think I pretty much held on to that 30-second gap on that last lap. So Javi and Bevan didn't get any closer, and yeah, could celebrate that win. And then the year after, I went out and I did it again, but then it was only on the run. So it was a big group of us getting off the bike, including Bevan was there again, Greg Bennett, Peter Robertson, who had won 3 world titles the years before, and Ivan Rania, who'd won the world champs. Pretty sure Simon Whitfield was there again, and Hunter Kemper was there with the Andy Potts, some of the great Americans, and a lot of people, and I ended up just running away with 2 or 3K to go. That was usually my way of winning those races. I couldn't do it in the last 100 or 200 meters. I had to do it earlier. and I managed to hang on. So yeah,
Yeah.
great memories.
Would highly recommend anyone to go on Triathlon Live TV and watch those Hy-Vee races back. They did. I mean, they definitely brought the drama, didn't they? It's an interesting one. I guess there was it 4 years in a row or 5 that they happened, and it was just to give the context. It was by virtue of a big sponsor, Hy-Vee, being a store,
the supermarket chain in the Midwest.
Yeah, I mean, the likes of which we haven't seen since, right? I mean, it was a success in as much as it brought incredible racing and it brought the best out of the best. But it was also the product of a multi-millionaire supermarket chain owner who loved triathlon, right? And that doesn't come around every
No. It's again, it's not a sustainable model, for building professional sport. And I definitely hope that, what is going on now in the sport of triathlon is more sustainable. I can fear sort of a little bit the same thing with the PTO system at the moment. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic for the long distance athletes that are in that now, and they can benefit a lot from this, and hopefully it can grow and develop the sport. But what if it isn't there in 5 or 10 years time? Then what happens? So these fluctuations in the sport is a little bit dangerous, I think. But I hope and pray that it's going to be holding on.
For national federations such as yours, is the financial limitation something that is going to be always going to be a bit of a stumbling block for you realizing your visions for the sport that you would want it to, where you would want to take it, shall we say, and how, without a Hy-Vee in Denmark or whatever, like how do you get around something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are relying as a federation on the support from our Olympic Committee, Team Denmark on the elite side, and then from our sports confederation, which is basically government money, and it's not a lot. It's definitely not enough money for us to develop the sport on the elite side or on the age group side, on the youth side. We would love to be able to do much more. And we can only do that by, getting more government funding, but that's not likely to happen as it seems, not making, a huge breakthrough anyway, or to get it commercially, which is also pretty difficult at the moment. So as it is now, we have our long distance athletes that are lucky enough to make a pretty good living, for some of them, for the best ones, and a decent living for the second tier athletes. Whereas for the short distance people, it's hard for them to get to a level where they can get enough from prize money in the World Series and the World Cups, etc. Of course, you need to be a really good athlete, and there's always that. Should you or when can you say that you deserve to make a living from a sport? How good do you need to be? But there is a bit of a gap now, I think, between the long distance and the short distance. That there are some really good short distance athletes that struggle to make a living out of sport, and we unfortunately can't support them well enough as it is now. We can't even support like the full Olympic preparation cycle for all the athletes that are actually potential Olympic candidates. They will have to pay some of that themselves, to maybe go to some of the World Cups towards the end of the season to try and improve that Olympic ranking. Where I wish that we had enough money to just say, of course we can support you to go here and there, and we can also help you that you can put all your focus into this. Some of them, they need to go out and do some work a few hours a week, or have parents who can help them out just to be able to do that Olympic campaign. And I don't really think that's fair. I think that should be something that we as federation should be able to support. But as it is now, we just don't have enough funding for it.
Yeah. It's easy to forget, I suppose, those added pressures on an athlete, not just to win, but then, those results are what funding is dependent on, isn't it? And then, it's a knock-on effect for for you, for who might be able to coach you, for what races you might be able to do, for the federation as a whole, for athletes coming through. It's it's always very difficult.
Yeah. We try not to, put too much pressure on our athletes about, but you're absolutely right. We do depend on their results also to retain or to improve the funding that we're getting. And obviously also from a commercial side, the better the athletes, the better the chance we have of selling them and making some money for the federation. But I mean, they have enough pressure already just from themselves and their own sponsors and their own parents or whoever has invested in them along the years. So we shouldn't put more pressure on them. There's enough already.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it feels like an exciting time for Danish triathlon. We can't wait to see Alberta back out there. Will she be in Sunderland this weekend? I can't remember off the top of my head the start list.
She should have been, but unfortunately she had a bit of a foot issue coming out of Hamburg, and we decided to let her rest for Sunderland. So she might be going to Europeans in Turkey, and then certainly in Paris test event.
Great. Will you be there as well, Paris?
I'll be in Paris. Yeah. We need to. That's the performance director hat that I put on there, because we need to prepare, as well as we possibly can to do well on that course, and then it's important to see it all and to prepare for what's coming up next year.
Yeah, crunch some serious numbers, take them away, crunch them again, and then
exactly
see what you come up with. Brilliant. Well, I look forward to seeing you out there in person then, and very best of luck for the build up to that. What will be a brilliant test event, no doubt. Appreciate the time and the insights. Congratulations again on the silver in Hamburg, and
Thank you so much, Doug. It was a pleasure, and I'll see you out there.
Great. Thanks, Rasmus.